Today, I'm going to do a overview of the genus Philodromus in the eastern United States. These are often called running crab spiders. They're not closely related to typical crab spiders, but I've gained an interest in them too lately. And so, yeah, I'll be discussing some of these different species. So, the most commonly observed one is Philodromus rufus. And you can find it all over the world, really. Um, in the eastern United States, you have two main, um, uh, excuse me, two main subspecies. The real main one is Rufus vibrans. This one you'll find it all throughout the southeast and eastern United States. Pretty much every observation of a Philodromus rufus in the eastern United States is vibrans. You can tell them apart from other Philodromus by the fact that these chevrons in the back of the abdomen are quite wide. Here's an example right here. You can see they're narrow and wide. It's got these two dark bands here. It's got a lot of different forms to it, but you'll find the commonality is wide chevrons. The other subspecies that is easy to confuse with it is Quartus. Quartus has narrow chevrons. And Quartus also has a different distribution. It's more of a northern and western one. And then the last one that's kind of is this one is Pacificus, and it's got a west coast distribution. And then in the east, you'll also find Rufus Jenningsi. I am not convinced this is a Rufus. The people who described this were not. Uh, they did a good job, but they were not experts in Philodromi or Philodromidae. Um, and so I think, to me, at least looking at it from an exterior perspective, I haven't really dove deep enough into the palp and epigynom characteristics. It reminds me most of the Western uh, Philodromus marginalis. You can see those are quite similar to Jenningsi, and they're kind of a Western distribution. Um, Anywho, that's Rufus. It is the most common one that you'll see. It's let me. I'll just go to there. I'll see if I can. Oh yeah, here it is. It's right in front of me. Um, when you go to taxonomy and vibrans, and you look at the time of year, it's most in spring, but there's also this peak in fall, which most other Philodromus don't typically have. Then you've got Marxie, the metallic crab spider. This is one of several metallic crab spiders in both the Imbecellus and Rufus groups. Male Marxies are have a kind of an orangish red carapace and legs and a shiny abdomen. Females are bright white with these vibrant black lines along the sides of the carapace and abdomen. And also, the noteworthy characteristic here is that there are no dark bands on the prolateral side of the patella on the third leg. That's how you tell it from Philodromus placidus, which is in an entirely different species group. Um, uh, and males of Placidus and Marxia, I've got no idea how to tell apart. But you see, it's got a very distinct distribution. Basically, you'll find it in spring into early summer. Compare that to Rufus. Um, it's all over the place. So then there's also Minutus. Minutus forms kind of a complex with several, including, and then Montanus in Virginia and North Carolina, and where is Mediocris? Where are you, Mediocris? Oh, here we go. Mediocris in Florida and Georgia. So Minutus, it's got this distinct pattern on the abdomen with this dark cardiac mark and these kind of it's a row of chevrons, but they kind of look like almost like bunny ears, I guess. Um, And then the real characteristic is it's got this dark prolateral band on the hind femora, and it also has them on leg three. You can see another example there, and it's got a few other bands on some other legs. But when you see a light colored spider with a dark cardiac mark, these two lines on the back of the abdomen that look like bunny ears, and a dark line under femora 3, you can be pretty confident you're looking at minutus. And I forgot, I need to edit these photos. That's the male of validus that people misidentified as minutus. Let me see if I can find a good male minutus photo to replace it with now. Might not be able to do it quickly, and if so, I'll just move on. Yeah, that's what the male looks like on minutus, but that's not a good photo. I'll have to come back. Anyway, Montanus. I have not figured out a way to tell Montanus from um, minutus reliably. It's got the same dark bands. We only have one specimen of Montanus, or we get one female, one male. You're looking at them right here. They were just uploaded recently. I made a video about it. Um, but yeah, the distribution in the literature of the species is uh, North Carolina and Virginia. And then Mediocris, the distribution for this is mostly Florida, but also like Georgia, Alabama. And it basically just looks like uh, Minutus, but it's got some differences in the leg banding. I'd have to look back into it. I identified these, but I have to look back into it to figure out how I actually figure that out. Okay, back here, we have Floridensis. This is one of the prettiest ones. It's in the Rufus group. It has this abdomen that's wider at the back, and it has this darker wedge-shaped marking flanked with these white lines that make it quite distinctive. That's a juvenile. There's another example. And it is all from the Gulf of Mexico up into the Carolinas. Many of these species, by the way, they probably extend further up here than the maps show. They just get comparatively rarer, and people don't photograph these often because they're small and they move fast. Imbecillus. This is one that is very similar to Marxie in terms of the male being this bright metallic color. The males do tend to be more of a light tan color. Those are a few examples, but like see that. Try to compare that to Marxie. How do you reliably distinguish those without dissection? I don't know. The females, very easy to distinguish. They have this kind of like skeleton rib cage pattern on the back. They've got these dark bands on the legs, and they're really, you're not going to find any other spiders with that combination of characters. Really, I think the abdomen in and of itself is diagnostic. You got Placidus. This is the one that I said was very similar to Marxie, except that it's got, you can see very similar to Marxie, but it's got this dark line under the patella number 3. It's kind of hard to see there because we're looking at it from above, but the segment is clear, so you can see that kind of dark coloration from that. Let's see if I can view some more. Yeah, so here's a photo from beneath. There's the dark line. And so that's how you tell it from Marxie. I guess you could also potentially, no, you can't really even tell it based on time. It might be out earlier than Marxie, but it is peaking at around the same time. You can find it. Is that right? I do not think that is right. How was an ID reached? Okay, so from dissected epiginum, you think be the undescribed entity you've found previously? Patella 3, lateral dark band, which I've seen in which Dondell and Redner indicate It is always present in Placidus. Um, okay, yeah, I don't think that's actually Placidus, but because part of the problem with these guys is that epigenum is very simple and it's very similar between species. Um, but Arachnologus, Dr. Rod Crawford is one of the best identifiers out there. I class with him a little bit sometimes. I hope it's all good natured. Uh, but I really do respect his expertise. Next, we've got Philodromus cespetum. If I just look at it right now, and I'm going to get kind of upset. Yeah, it is not in the American Southeast. I'm going to come back to that later and just fix those. The CV, the Computer Vision Unnaturalist, has this was one of the first Philodromus species added to it, and so now it calls almost every Philodromus it sees Philodromus cespetum. Most Philodromus species have not been added to the CV yet because they've not been identified correctly enough. Anyway, cespetum is pretty easy to identify. Well, it's a European species primarily. I'm not sure whether it's native or introduced to North America. A lot of species are kind of native to this whole area. I think this one might be introduced though. Pretty easy to identify based, and the females at least. You have this overall kind of tannish color, minute speckles on the femora. You got these white marks in the middle of the allottal stripes, which are dark, and then you have these white bands coming from kind of the center of the dorsum all the way over to the sides. That combination of characters um, you will find pretty consistently, even in ones that are kind of this is like a very light colored one, but you still have those white markings in the middle of the band. You have these lighter areas coming down and streaking into the sides. It's a pretty cool spider. Um, this is going to be a long video if I don't speed it up. Laticeps, I'm really not sure how to identify this positively. Luteolensis and Andarum both look very similar. Luteolensis, in particular, you really can only identify by flipping it over and seeing the underside. Axillus, very similar to Philodromus rufus cordis. The difference is in life it's more red as opposed to more brown. And these chevrons kind of look like two stripes. Philodromus vulgaris, I have no idea how to tell it from Philodromus trilustris. They're both in the same species group, and no idea how to identify them other than with the palpar and epigenum. Philodromus infuscatus is a very distinct species. I can see people getting it confused with vulgaris and prilustris because they're gray, but infuscatus, which is part of the infuscatus group, which is just an amazing, beautiful group. I'll show you some. But it's got these orange flakes in the back of the abdomen. The abdomen is shaped differently. It's got some other characteristics too that you'll notice looking at it long enough. The group of Philodromus infuscatus includes things that are orange, things that are maroon, all sorts of different cool colors, which is uncommon in Philodromus. They're typically pretty drab. But most of those exciting ones are out west. Barosii is a neat looking one. It really loves Spanish moss, and it's got a distribution that kind of fits well with Spanish moss. So if you have Spanish moss in your yard, look out for a spider that looks just like it. Then we had talked about Perlustris, and talked about Andarum. How do you tell these apart without dissecting? I don't know. I kind of just do my best guess when identifying, trying to see which one is most visually similar to confirmed specimens I've seen, but that's much more of an art than a science at this point. Balaniatus is such a strange Philodromus. It's obviously not, at least as far as I can tell, congeneric with other Philodromus. It's tiny, even compared to Philodromus. It's got this long carapace, long abdomen, two lines, Balaniatus, these dark lines under the femora. Don this or redescribed it. They put it in the Rufus group for some reason. I think it's not even in Philodromus. I also think Barosii is not in Philodromus. Validus. This is a cool one. It's in the Artanes group, which I think also should be its own genus. I know people have disagreed. It was elevated to its own genus, and then it got put back in under Philodromus. I think eventually it's going to come back out and be its own genus. But it's got just this very wide carapace. You can also see that in the male, very wide carapace. Loves exposed bark on pine trees. Just a beautiful, beautiful spider. Kind of have this bluish gray abdomen with these reddish orange dots. I just love it. I want to see one in person. Dispar is an interesting one. It's a European species introduced in the United States. Huge palps. Males are black. So that's a mature male. This is an immature male with those huge palps. Females have a distinct abdominal pattern too, although it looks like maybe all these photos are of the males. But it's starting to creep into the eastern North America. Got a foothold in Pacific Northwest and spreading eastward. Yeah, and even dang, it's even in almost on the Mexican border. Um, uh, I already talked about that one. Peninsulanus. I have no idea how to accurately identify these. It's a strange one for sure. Um, I think it was originally described from Florida, and I have not been able to identify any in Florida that fit the just what the specimens that have been confirmed from dissection look like. Um, and as you can tell, they're quite varied. Um, Montanus I talked about. Spectabilis is not in the eastern U.S. as a Mysidae. Kieserlingi is probably one of the more common species, but it's just so hard to tell from things like Peninsulanus that it's just not getting identified. Hernex is another one, very difficult to ID. Um, Proterii, this one observation, it looks a whole lot like Philodromus proterii, but it could be like just an eastern member of the Infuscatus group. That's weird. This was in Tennessee. You can see the rest of the species distribution is from Texas straight up to Nebraska. And then it's got this one dot in Tennessee. I've got no idea about this. It's so strange. Very distinct species. Um, and Albitus is not in the U.S. And then Mississippianus, this was a shot in the dark when I offered this identification. It's in the Infuscatus group, which this specimen is, but I don't know how to know that it's not just uh, like Infuscatus itself. Um, that's just a hunch. So anyway, those are the species of Philodromus in the eastern United States that have been uploaded to a naturalist so far. Thank you for listening in.